wouldn't believe it, Chloe, but I had a very, very bad temper as a junior. And nobody believes that who knows me now because I'm,
No, I wouldn't have believed it.
No, I always say, goodness me, if yellow cards had existed in my day, I might have been in a bit of trouble.
Hello and welcome back to Serving Up Trouble. This is the podcast about everything women's table tennis. I'm your host, Chloe Ireland. We're on episode 3, guys. And what an episode it's going to be. But before we get into it, my adventures in table tennis this week. I have learnt that engaging my core, especially on my forehand side, is a really good way of keeping form, especially during attacking. Which is quite a sad realisation because it means I'm actually going to have to go away and do some core exercises. So it looks like it's the plank for me, lads. On another note, we've got a great episode coming up. I'm going to be chatting with Teresa Bennett, who's a name and a face that a lot of people in the table tennis community are going to recognise both as a coach and as a player. We had a really wide-ranging discussion about how we can keep women and girls engaged in the sport, a little bit about Teresa's own journey with coaching, with her family, with table tennis, and also as a PE teacher, which I think is just a really vital perspective to have when we talk about engaging, younger age groups kind of going through the teen stage in sport. So a really interesting episode. I really hope you guys enjoy our chat. And without further ado, here she is. This is my discussion with Brighton's Teresa Bennett. Thank you for coming on the podcast and talking to me about table tennis and women and girls and everything.
No worries. A subject I'm very passionate about.
Brilliant. Oh, I want to start off right from the beginning. And actually, you come from a table tennis family, don't you? So would you mind talking a little bit about how you started, what kind of encouraged you to play, and what kind of kept you playing as you in those early years?
So those sort of veterans players may well know that I had 2 big brothers that played and were very good players, and my dad that started off, so he was sort of a county junior. And it was very much, I just sort of followed my big brothers. I wasn't necessarily massively interested to start with, but I just had a very, very good, introduction, really. We had some lovely coaches at Bexhill Youth Centre where I started. And really importantly, another girl, Jane Standard, it was her dad, one of the coaches, Roger, and then the other Roger Gillett, and then my dad. And it was fun, all just being at the youth centre and there with my brothers. And I think I've said before, talking on maybe a podcast or something with Emma Vickers about, there was a sweetie shop there. So we were allowed, once we'd finished playing, to get, 10 pence worth of sweeties. Which
always good incentive.
Nicked a little tag and that kept me going. So yeah, that's how I started. And then my amazing mum, who is still with us at 84, took us round all the tournaments. Because sadly, my dad died when I was 13, and I'm absolutely in awe of my mum that she kept us going. Because by then, Adrian was playing internationally. That's my brother up in the cadets and then juniors. And she still drove us to like the Cleveland 3 Stars. They were called then 3 Stars. They weren't 3 Stars then. And so, I was hooked. And I've never, ever stopped playing, even when I've had my 3 own children. And I've never actually had a break from tennis. So I'm very proud of that.
It's amazing. And your own children play as well. So you kind of brought them in along the dynasty.
Do you know what? I feel very proud of that I always think, God, my dad would be so proud if he looked down and realised that, my 3 played. And I'm still managing to persuade Joelle to keep going. I mean, she's legal and, wants to do her law training and just finished her degree. And I just about managed to persuade her to play Women's British League. And I'm really proud of that fact. And she really enjoyed supporting our younger players in Div 5. Kate and Izzy, as well as playing with Fliss, Paralympian, which, incredible team and spirit. And, what a wonderful weekend that was.
Yeah, we've got an episode with Fliss coming up as well, so I'm really excited to chat with her.
I was so proud that she's joined us at Brighton to play. I'm going to call it wrong. What, Women's British Club Leagues?
It's that Women's British Club League, but I keep on toe twisting it. You did it. Yes, you got it. You got it in one.
I got it wrong.
So when you were kind of starting out with your brothers as well, so I mean, you've already got, is it older brothers, both of them?
Yes. So yeah, the same. So I've got Jack, Josh, Joel, 2 boys and then a girl, and I am the youngest of 2 big brothers. And my eldest brother also had 2 boys and a girl. So it's always, completely itself.
Was it quite competitive between you and the family, or did your brothers kind of look after you, help train you? What was that dynamic like?
A bit of both, really. Oh, without a doubt. I think being, and I think there's been a lot of research in it, hasn't there, with a sister with 2 big brothers, grows up quite, able to handle herself and is competitive because she's got to keep up with big brothers. So I was definitely like that. But they also took me under the wing. I mean, they were brilliant at practicing with me, and later on, looking after me at tournaments or driving me up or taking me around as well. So, yeah.
When you started out, and kind of as you started to develop as a player, what did your game become? So, like, is it very different to how you play now? How has your game developed?
It's not developed very much playing players, and I'm sure if any of the other veteran women listen to this, they will laugh as well because, and when I play youngsters, I love playing the juniors in Women's British Club Leagues, and I always, if I do beat them, I shake their hand and I do say, I'm ever so sorry, I'm ever so awkward to play. So I sort of apologise to them because I am sort of known as being a very, very unusual style and quite difficult to play against. So I'd love to say that I've got an amazing top spin and beautiful open up and that, but I'm actually quite defensive and always have been. So, mastered the disguising my pushes between float and backspin, and I really a block. I want the other person to get in and I block and move them around the table, and I do slap. We did have a bit of a laugh because there was quite a few a generation below me as well that grew up, and we would also with Sussex slappers because all from the same county.
That's a good theme name. That should be the next. If there's another women's British,
you have to be a bit careful how.
Oh yeah, maybe. Whoops.
Maybe a bit of laugh, but yes. So it's not a beautiful style. It's not pretty to look at. Never has been. Never will be. But it can be effective. So there we go.
Effective nonetheless. And I think like a lot of the younger players do struggle with that style, especially when they haven't come across it very often. And I think it's a good thing for them to play because it kind of makes them think tactically about what they need to do to win the game, and they can't just speed their way through it. So I think keep being an awkward player. I think
well, I agree, and I think and I know I do apologise to them, but actually it is good for them because I think if they do work it out, I'm very consistent. I won't ever give away a cheap point, and actually that's a really important thing for the youngsters to learn. And I'll tell you who else is like that. Oh, what an absolute joy. I'm so proud of her yesterday. She got to the final of the Cambridge 4-star, was Bly.
Wow, yeah.
She played brilliantly yesterday. Really good win in the quarterfinals, semi-finals. I think she was only meant to get to the quarters yesterday. And I was coaching her in the corner. Number one, she's a pleasure to coach in the corner because she, will really listen and she chats about what thinks she needs to do. She's analysing the game constantly.
Yeah. I'm sure people who are listening will know who Bly is, but just to kind of figure out,
Bly Paralympic, double bronze medalist at Paris and playing at Brighton TTC club. An absolute pleasure to have in the junior coaching sessions at the club. And obviously, I'm just a teeny part of, her journey, but I'm very proud that, I am part of that. And as I say, yesterday I'm watching her play some of the other girls, and actually what she's also got is that tenacity to give no cheap points away. She gets that ball back on the table by hook or by crook. And, I think it's a real lesson. And there's I see a lot of players, not just, girls and boys. It's that not being consistent enough. You know, trying to play the big shots, trying to, you know, get in, but maybe picking the wrong ball. And yeah, it's fascinating.
It is. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few, like, you know, women, especially at Women's Clubs League and things like that, about what we think the differences between the men's and the women's game is, and if that's kind of blurring now a bit. Because I mean, I was having a good chat with Sally Hughes about this, actually, because Sally was kind of saying that the women that she was playing with kind of have a certain style, and now that style seems to be slightly shifting towards more of an opening up, more of an attacking game. So I'm curious, you know, as someone who's coaching as well, is that something that you agree with? Do you think that the women's game is shifting? Is it different?
Yeah.
What, you know, does it matter?
I think there's really talented young players out there, and I definitely think the focus isn't there, of the you know, third ball attack and it open up early, some really spinny serves and quick, you know, lovely players. I think it was maybe that focus. Although, see, my generation, when I was a junior, the number one player was Lisa Bellinger, which was Lisa Lomas, who became European silver medalist, you know, incredible player, but she was a defender. And yeah, there's not many defenders, are there now? You know, you don't think about who you know, and I mean, a defender away from the table, because that's just quite interesting, isn't it? Because you asked me to describe my play, but in many ways, I do think of myself as defensive, because I will, you know, and I think sometimes people have been a bit derogatory about women that play a little bit differently and push or move the ball around, and perhaps are using pimples. I don't use pimples, although it has been suggested it might be good for my game. But I get really cross when people criticise. Did a bit on Facebook I was looking at the other day about criticising. Don't you criticise any girls or juniors, because they're all trying their best and have all got their different styles and ways. I think that's really important to embrace that. And actually, you look across Europe and across the world, there's some really unusual women's styles out there, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know why sometimes in this country I think we're a bit obsessed that everybody's got to play beautiful, you know, massive top spins and, yeah.
And kind of embracing the quirks of the player in some ways, and kind of letting them think for themselves and kind of develop something that might be a bit more surprising to their opponent, as something they haven't seen before, or, you know, I think being disruptive, being a bit defensive and things like that is something that maybe we don't focus on enough, really, because I think we do get like these comments. It drives me nuts as well about like, oh, the girls' game is just pushing, and I'm like, no, it's not. But sometimes being disruptive and being defensive, is effective, and it is,
absolutely, There shouldn't be, you know, it shouldn't be say, oh, you're pushing, you're being negative. Because it's not necessarily. I mean, it you know, in the times it is, you think, oh my God, they've done 100 pushes. No, we're not get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
positive pushing. There's definitely
important. And when we talk about the girls' game and we want the girls, you know, to stay in the game and become seniors, it's all about motivation and positivity with them. I cannot stress that enough. I get really upset if I see really bad corner coaching. I'm going to say by men that, unfortunately, who are speaking maybe too brusquely, criticising in the corner women, putting people down. I think, no. And I honestly, Chloe, I mean, well, you know how long I've been involved in the game. You know, I see it and I look at some of the youngsters and their shoulders dropping, some of the girls, and they give up. Yeah. Because it's so important that we keep, you know, keep them loving it and keep being positive to them. I mean, obviously they've got to improve, so we've got to, we've got to get them to work on their weaknesses and strengths. But there's a big difference in that and criticising and not sort of, I think that's really important, of motivating in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a good transition actually to the women's sessions that you've been running at Brighton. And kind of, you know, how how do you find coaching a room full of women as opposed to kind of mixed groups? Do you find that women want different things out of a coaching session?
That's really interesting. I think I have to be honest and say that my women's session is more of a club level, lower club level session that we have. So this week, I'm just trying to think, regularly I'll get 20 in session 1 and 15 session 2. So I'll probably see 35 women on a Tuesday evening, sometimes even 40. And that's lovely. Just seeing so many people. And they've become my friends. We've got a WhatsApp group, this massive women's WhatsApp group, and there's so much love on there. And, oh, sorry, I can't come. My blooming knees done. And everyone, Tina, get back to spoon and all of that stuff, which is wonderful. But, even though it might not be the highest level, they still want a proper session with warm-up, a focus. So we might focus on our forehand topspin. We'll play some games, we'll play doubles, we'll do some, have a real proper planned session. And I think they really enjoy that. You've got to give them a chance to, chat while they're playing. There's a lot of, as I know, table tennis England, the bat and chat. I think my sessions are quite bat and chats at times. But they're certainly not just social sessions. They want to learn. And I think quite a lot of girls and women I've coached, they really enjoy drilling. They enjoy that, less than maybe the playing the matches. You've got to be aware of that. I go to Patcham High on a Friday afternoon. It's a lovely way of finishing my week. And I do an all-girls session. So after school, just all girls. No, my boys are always looking in the door and say, no. And a lot of those girls, I have quite a lot of year 11 girls, which again is wonderful. 16-year-old girls staying on a Friday afternoon. It's a joy. But they love doing drills. They're really good little players. And as soon as I have to be careful with my competitive element of it, because if I say, we're playing some games now, they go, oh, no, we don't want to play against each other. We don't want to, because they don't like beating each other.
Interesting. Why do you think that is? Do you think that is the social element, that they don't want to compete against each other?
Yeah, I think they're quite an unusual group like that. They don't compete, well, apart from 2 who are quite high level in England ranked and county players, they do. But their friendship group that go to this table tennis as well, I suppose they don't want to hurt each other's feelings maybe, or don't want to fall out. So I just have to be a bit clever. And I do competitive element, but just within practices. So we were doing on Friday, because they're good players. I was blocking because I didn't have as many on Friday and doing backhand corner, forehand middle, forehand wide, and they were rotated in 2s. Do it as a continuous rally. So they had to do it without making mistakes. So it's about consistency. And I mean, they were wearing themselves out. It was a really hard fitness drill. But as soon as someone missed, then it was 1-0 to the other person, then 1-2, 1-2. So that's the drill. Now,
very clever.
They were happy to do that because it was fun, but it wasn't directly them competing against each other. So I'm constantly finding, little ways of I suppose, just making them all happy and keeping them playing. And that's the PE teacher in me, definitely.
Yes.
There's that crossover. I think I sometimes think some of my coaching sessions, particularly like after school club, which is like juggling jelly, those type ones, that it is more me as a PE teacher than our table tennis coach. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, in some of the girls that I came up with, they also didn't like the competition. It's one of the reasons why they kind of dropped off in the end, because it was the stress of it. It was like they loved going to practice, they loved really, but as soon as you kind of took them to a competition where there's pressure and there's a coach in the corner and you feel like you could let people down, and the person that you're opposite was your friend 5 minutes ago, and you feel, when you're younger, I definitely feel like there is something in that I quite like how you've addressed it there, that you've kind of turned it, it's a game, but it's not that pressure, and it's the fun competition, and it's kind of easing them into that world rather than dropping them in a tournament and being like, all of a sudden you go from 1 to 100 in terms of how intense it feels, especially when you're a junior. So I really like that approach to it. And you mentioned before just then about being a PE teacher. What kind of age group did you do PE for, just to start off?
So I trained at Bedford. So I did 4 years at Bedford College of Physical Education, and then came back down to Sussex to teach. 5 years at Patcham. That's the connection with Brighton, really. And then 25 years over in Hastings, St Leonard's area. But it was, so I taught secondary. So I was 11 to 18. But in my last 10 years, I was doing an SSCO, SGO role as well, school games organiser, which you might be aware of that, of sports partnerships. So I did a lot of primary education stuff and did a lot of teacher training for primary schools. So yeah, in the end, I've literally can say hand on heart, I've taught reception up to 18.
Done them all.
Very many happy years, and did 30 years, which I loved, but walked away while I still could walk these when ankles aren't too shot a bit. But yeah, then Tim offered me this coaching role at Brighton, and it was a chance to walk away while I still loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a study that I saw recently. I think it was a youth sport trust one that kind of said that 66% of girls enjoyed taking part in PE, as opposed to about 87% of boys. There's quite a big kind of gap in the, I don't know, eagerness to partake in PE. And I'm just kind of curious because that age group, that high school age group, that is kind of a massive drop-off rate, especially in table tennis. We lose a lot of girls. They're kind of like off the end of the juniors, kind of going into the senior age group. I'm just wondering, what are some of the challenges that came up as a PE teacher, kind of trying to engage with that group? And how did you, was there any ways that you found to overcome it and to kind of reach through to them in terms of trying to get them to enjoy sport and physical activity?
Very hard. I mean, I think it's got younger and younger as well, but it was always, year 9 and up that was often hard to engage. We looked carefully at kit, so making sure they felt comfortable. We brought leggings in, they could wear sweatshirts. I look back at the past when I first started teaching, it was awful making them wear game skirts and showers. It's like, oh my goodness, what on earth were we thinking? But I must admit, when I left, we were quite proud of the St Leonard's Academy, having a very good high participation rate of girls doing PE, but we looked very carefully at what was offered at year 10 and 11. So there were things like table tennis, step aerobics, power walking, alternatives, not just netball and hockey and football, but other stuff that was offered that was perhaps, less competitive and more inclusive. I think that's really important. I'm always really proud when I go back into Hastings, often see, girls I taught and, they shout out, Bennett, and, come up to me, and I'm really chuffed when they go, you'll be so pleased with me. I'm going to the, local Zumba class or I'm doing badminton or I'm doing couch 5K or I'm doing park runs. I mean, how amazing is that movement? That they've done so much for women being active. So I think, I was always, they knew that I was one of these people that would always go, come on, there's always something for everybody. We've got to find your niche and your sport. But yeah, I think table tennis lends itself fantastically to PE. I know I was always biased, because we had, 10, 12 tables at St Leonard's, and, that could fill up easily half a sports hall and provide, a very small space, a lot of kids being able to play. In terms of racket sports compared to badminton or tennis. And I do think it's, of the racket sports, I think in many ways, at a basic level, it's the easiest one to learn and get success at quickly. So I think, our sport is great, and we know it's a sport that you can play till you're, 100. I could do off a tease. When I left the school, they always used to stick up this poster above my desk of, I think it was an Australian lady. Is it Betty Bird, whatever the lady that plays the world vets is?
I don't know.
In the 90s or 100s, said, this is going to be you, Bennett. You're still going to play. I said, yeah, that's the aim. But I mean, that's the beauty. And at the club at Brighton, we've got some amazing ladies in their 80s and one soon to be in her 90s that still come to the 50 plus session or my women's session, that I just think, our sport is incredible like that you can't keep going.
Yeah, it's properly a sport for life. Oh, so isn't it? Because you can, it's accessible in that way. I mean, not just across like age and gender, but also disability as well. As you've been seeing in Brighton, the stuff that you guys have been doing with disability table tennis and accessibility is really quite, leading in the country, really, with the kind of stuff that you guys provide, which is brilliant. Yeah.
It's my favourite session. One of my favourite sessions is in a week. We do Friday afternoon, have an all-comers disability group. And again, I have to say, and you realise sometimes I really think about the sessions that we do leads to the another session being amazing. So the fact I've got so many women players, loads of those did their level 1 coaching or they volunteer with us. So you just, you've got these natural other people that can be a huge part of the club. So on my Friday afternoon, all-comers disability, I've got Lorraine, Serena, Susie, 3. I've got about 5 or 6 women that volunteer helping me with the all-comers disability session on a Friday. So, it's an absolute joyful it is in the room. And with the new venue, we've been able to expand because it was getting to the point where we were having, I think 1 week, 35 people with the volunteers. You think, oh my God, it's too many for this space. Got to head more soon, the new venue.
What a good problem to have in the first place, that you've got too many people.
And so the last 2 weeks, Tim and Paul, one of our minibus drivers, have been taking our T21 squad, who would always also come to the Friday all-comers disability, but they're really good players. And they now been bussed down to the other venue, and Wenway coaches them. So there's another like 10 people who just give them more room now in, at the Kent Town main club on a Friday afternoon. So, we've just got to keep training up more and more volunteers to, keep all these sessions going and stuff. But it's a lovely problem to have.
We're going to take a short break here for our tip of the week. Every episode, I ask someone from the table tennis community to contribute their top tip. So, who could it be this time?
Hi, it's Leon the Magician here. Now, my biggest tip for table tennis serves, especially if you want to get so much spin that you can dominate the point, is you need to whip the wrist as much as possible and make sure you don't treat it like aiming it on the table, but treat it like a trick shot. And that way you can spin the ball so much instead of just aiming it onto the other side with no spin. Enjoy.
A great serving tip from Leon the Magician. And now back to Teresa. I mean, you do a lot of coaching, a lot of like volunteering and supporting, but then you also play in the in the first division at Women's British League. How do you kind of separate coach Teresa from playing Teresa? Is there a separation? Do you do anything to try and keep yourself sharp for matches?
No, it's the honest. Do you know what?
I love the honesty.
I'm anybody that knew me in the past. I was quite a high-ranked junior, and I did. I think my proudest moment, I went to the Italian Open with an England representative team, which was Jill Hammersley Foundation.
Wow.
I mean, what an amazing woman she is and an inspiration. So I was a lucky girl. Actually, you wouldn't believe it, Chloe, but I had a very, very bad temper as a junior. And nobody believes that who knows me now, because I'm,
No, I wouldn't have believed it.
No, I always say, goodness me, if yellow cards had existed in my day, I might have been in a bit of trouble. But yeah, I was feisty. I suppose it was good because I always wanted to win. But I used to get upset when I lost and, what have you. But I think obviously then when you start growing up, and I was teaching PE, and you can't behave like that anymore. You're a coach. And so, because I was coaching all the way through when I was teaching as well, just at not same length. So, but I never liked practicing that much. My brothers were the ones that would train really hard. I would go along. And of course, I knew I had a tournament, so I thought I'd better do a bit of training, but I didn't love it. And now I suppose my training is me having my bat in my hand 4 days a week coaching. When I'm doing the 50 plus sessions or the women's sessions, I play and joining in. So that's my training. So I don't ever say, I must have a little session just for me to train for the weekend.
Yeah.
So I just think the sheer fact that I've got my bat in my hand is actually, I'm playing, pretty well at the moment. And
a lot of table time. Yeah, you look like you're playing well. I was trying to watch some of your matches over the thing. I didn't get a chance to come over, but
I did. Yeah, I won 4 out of 6, and
it's pretty good.
Had some good little wins. And I had one junior though. She beat me 3-0. Evie Nappy. And last time I beat her, I beat her when we played in one of the women's Sussex tournaments that Sally put on. And, it was lovely because I was able to say, goodness me, you've improved,
Yeah.
That's the thing. I find myself admiring them playing, I'm watching and I think, come on, you've got to get competitive here. Stop thinking how well they're playing and enjoying it. But I do get feisty. You probably did hear me. I do sometimes shout, come on, when I've had a really good point. And then I laugh at myself because I think, you see how women stop.
Oh no, I love it. I love it when people get passionate about it because it's
just in my head bad, looking.
Yeah, it's a bit of fire, isn't it? It kind of just sometimes just giving it a little bit of a shout just kind of like lights the fire under you and gets you to up it a bit. So that
makes the team laugh anyway. Jodie and Lauren and Blythe laughing, So, but I am very aware. I mean, I would never, argue with an umpire or be rude. I'm very sporty because you are a coach. First and foremost, I'm a coach and a role model for the younger ones and other people. And I've got a duty to keep it together now, which I do.
Glad to hear it. Just a couple of things before we kind of finish off. So I was reading a little bit about what Brighton Table Tennis Club did during the pandemic. And one of the things that kind of came up was that you were doing these kind of online sessions to kind of keep people active. And 75% of the people that partook in that, women and girls. Did that surprise you at all that they were coming to those?
I think, it was incredible really what happened over that period. I think, we're saying it's so hard now to sort of reflect and look back at it. But we started this daily show quite quickly. I think we were, again, that was, I have to say, Tim, who's the founder of Brighton TTC Club, he's very creative and innovative. And, straight away he's thinking, we've got some very vulnerable people at the club. We need to keep in contact with them. There's going to be a lot of lonely people. So we started this daily show on Zoom and we're all getting used to the technology, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And, it just sort of emerged into lots of different things. And one of the things, and another lady I coach, Ivana Brooks, who's an XP teacher at Patcham with me, incredible woman. She, we did this Fitness Gold together, and so lots of the women would come on that. So we did we did lots of shadow play, like in our lounges and jumping around and doing fitness. And that was the beauty of already having the sort of women's WhatsApp group and people you were connected with.
Yeah.
So it was quite easy to get that set up and letting people know. I think it was a special time. And I think about some of the women volunteers that I've got now, and they were the ones that were paramount and key people in doing all of those Fitness Gold and joining in that stuff online. It wasn't rocket science or anything amazing. There was a lot of love there, and it emerged into we used to get speakers. Look back, Paul Drinkle and Liam Pitchford came on, and all these people give me say, come on our daily show, and it was incredible. Kelly Sibley and Tim and all sorts. Was it?
Really good. Was there anything from, kind of doing that you then brought back into the club afterwards? Especially like the sense of community, like how important was the sense of community kind of during that time?
It was incredible. It was the club which you probably know was used as a food bank. We've now got the Real Junk Food Cafe next door, which Sport England helped, build with the first sort of club that has got a community cafe attached to it. There's a door that goes through. So a session I do on a Tuesday, it's called the Fitz Cafe All-Comers Session. And at 1:30, I go and have my lunch down there. It's a pay-as-you-feel. And there are people from all walks of life, from homeless people to people from the church next door, all sorts of people. And they come and play in the club. And you just wouldn't believe, the mix of people, Chloe. I mean, there is no other club like it. I know I'm biased, but it is just, incredible. There'd be some homeless people playing, some people that just walked literally off the street with, mix of people, or, with people with disabilities, people with mental health problems, all sorts of people come in that session. It's a wonderful mix. And I think that community spirit was always there even before lockdown. And maybe it was accentuated, from the amazing stuff we did during lockdown and has carried on.
I'm going to just finish off with kind of a big question. And this is kind of, if funding was of no consequence, which sounds silly because, of course, it's always of consequence, but if funding was of no consequence, what would you like to see happen to improve the women and girls situation for table tennis in England? What kind of things would you like to see implemented if we could do anything? What's kind of Teresa's perfect world?
Well, definitely just masses of funding to make a really big squad of all age groups having the opportunity to go abroad. I think they're the things that keep them in it. If they've had wonderful chances of playing abroad, playing for England, I think it's still such a small amount. I was so pleased that obviously the England women, number one, took a team that qualified and it tin with the youngsters. How amazing that they won it. I mean, following that. And obviously my good friend Emma Harradine going as the, women's coach there as well. Fantastic idea. We need to see more of that. I'm so thrilled for her. I mean, she's a PE teacher, Emma, and an inspirational woman and player herself. I think brilliant. I'm so pleased that's happened. And I sent her a message. I went, I bet you did make a little bit of difference there. Being a woman there, being positive to them. I mean, I'm sure, John Murphy's obviously an excellent coach, but I do think it's important. If there was money was no object, more women coaches, training them up, more experience for those women coaches to go coach abroad, internationals, and all these young girls having these opportunities to go to training camps abroad and to play for England abroad, and not just this, small amount, or they dropped from a squad, or I mean, the things that have happened in the last 5 years, I've just been so disappointed when we've not taken cadet girls teams to the Europeans because, they're not at the standard. I'm sorry, it's not good enough. Whatever standard they are, take them. They've been training so hard. Those things have maybe really cost in the past. So if we had all the funding in the world, then we would be taking teams and squads to everything.
Yeah, well said. I completely agree. And I think that it's, even if they are maybe not quite at that standard yet, that will only benefit them, and it will only benefit them bringing that knowledge that they get back into the system. I completely agree with that sentiment. If funding was of no object and we could have that squad and we could send that squad and they go and they have that experience, it keeps them in the sport. It helps them to improve their game because they're getting challenged in that way, and then they're bringing it back.
They're being rewarded, Chloe, for their hard work. And I do think we've always been, as a nation, I don't want to criticise too much. Crikey, I'm not. Yeah. But it's hard working, obviously, at the top and making those decisions, particularly if there's not enough funding. But we always have thrown all of our eggs in one basket and picked people, or said, right, that's who we're working with. And you think, but you don't know that those girls are going to be the best ones by the time they're 17 or 18, or even still going to be interested. So I think the more they encourage them all, keep them all playing and pushing that level, it's got to be better because, you don't know who's going to be the best one at the end. I mean, Tintin was an exception because I can remember having her in the British primaries. I've been lucky to do that over the years, the non-playing captain of the England under-11 schools event. And, she was special and has always been really special. But I think there's lots of girls. I was looking yesterday at the Cambridge Four-Star and you think, not quite sure who's going to come through in the under-13s and the cadets. And actually it was lovely yesterday. I said to Dan Bullen, well done. I said, there's a big entry for the girls in this. It was really lovely looking around of quite, big groups and a good number of groups of under-13s and under-15s. Not as many as the boys. Wouldn't that be nice? That'd be another thing.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, isn't it? Equal amount. But it was a healthy amount because we've gone again through, I look at other girls I've seen grow up in Sussex, Kate Cheer and Denise Payet's era. There was a real lack of girls. There just weren't many girls. So I'm pleased to see we've got, lots of girls playing again. You've got all the Archway Peterborough with Hong, they were all there yesterday, and lots of London Academy and Heber and Bavin have done a great job there. And again, you have to say, it's got to be Heber's influence, isn't it? A female coach that all these little girls at London Academy are playing.
Yeah.
And lovely to see, Rebecca Savage is going to be at EBAT. And, I take real interest in this and champion all these women that, are coaching. I think that's got to be the way forward because without a doubt, I think girls do respond to other girls. I'm a bit old in the tooth, aren't they? Blythe doesn't mind having me in the corner.
I'd like you in my corner, Teresa.
I think you can laugh in the corner. That's always my relaxing. But I think, young women coaching, wow, that's that's what we've got to aim for. Fantastic.
Yeah, I remember when I first started out, we had regional coaches at that time. I think it was very little, about 4 or 5 years old. And Katie Parker used to do sessions down at Blackpool.
Yeah.
And at that age, I just thought she was everything. I loved it when she came because, there wasn't that many girls coming through, especially not in my age group. I there were some older girls, but I didn't really have that many kind of friends in that group. And Katie, by coming to those sessions, kind of being around, taking an interest, doing a little bit of one-to-one with me and stuff like that, it really made a difference at that time. I'm not sure if I would have kind of grabbed onto it in the same way that I had done if she hadn't been there as a coach. So yeah, everything you're saying is totally registering. I think that having those young coaches, those young influential coaches in those positions is vital for kind of keeping those girls in the spot.
Absolutely. We've got to, encourage that. I just, and because we know, I'm not putting men down whatsoever, but definitely are more empathetic, coaching in the corner, understanding, we understand each other better.
Is that, through it,
that's the thing.
Yeah, we've been in the same position, especially if we were kind of come from a playing background ourselves. We kind of know what our emotions are doing. It's like you were saying, you kind of know when you get frustrated, why you get frustrated, and what kind of voice you need.
Yeah.
So I think that coming from another woman who's played at the same level, that maybe isn't that far ahead of you in age, or something like that. The influence of that can't be denied. It's absolutely vital. So. Yeah, thanks for saying that. I really value that.
Again, and I'd say to this, I play with Karen Smith, and I, as a young girl playing senior tournaments, really looked up to Karen Smith and Suzanne Airy, as they were Karen Rogers and Suzanne Airy it was then. And we laugh about it. I say I used to love it because they were so serene the way they played, and Karen still is, so controlled. And of course I wasn't. I was all and getting upset. But they used to walk around with their handbags, with their tracksuits. And I thought it was just like the height of sophistication. And Karen always thinks it's hilarious that I can remember that. But that to me, was really sort of stuck in my mind at tournaments. But it's lovely to play the same team as Sarah, Mish Reeves and Jan Johns, and just, really, really strong winning that we have such a good time.
I wish you the best of luck at the weekend. I'll be watching you now. I'll be keeping an eye out for your team.
Yeah, but now you might be umpiring me.
I might be umpiring you, yeah. That's all we've got time for this episode, but as usual, we're going to finish off with our champion of the week. This week, our champion is the amazing Hannah Goda. She is the African number 2 table tennis player and ranked number 28 in the ITTF World Rankings as of time of recording. Hannah is from Egypt, and an absolutely incredible fact is that in May of 2022, she became the youngest player to win the ITTF Africa Cup event when she was only 14 years and 7 months old. She's incredibly ambitious, and her improvement on the world stage is genuinely a joy to watch. Her social links are down below. Definitely a player to keep an eye on. That is all from us this week, but be sure to follow our social channels. We are Serving Up Trouble Pod on Instagram, just to keep up to date with all of the fabulous stuff that's coming up. I also share some great points and rallies from other accounts on there. So if you're a women's table tennis fan, please give that a follow. And we'll be back next week with another great episode. See you then. Bye.